Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatim min lisani yafqahu qawli. Qad aflaha al-mu'minuna wallazina hum li furujihim hafizun. This verse of the Quran of Surah Al-Mu'min talks about the topic we have, and it gives indication what we have to do. It says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, those who believe in themselves and develop highest conviction on the Quranic injunctions, and they control and protect their chastity, they are destined to get successful. Obviously, there are other things Quran mentioned in there. Those who develop the system of salat, those who provide the sustenance to the society, and those who avoid nonsense activities. And those are also included in that. So Quran says very clearly about this topic, which I'm going to discuss today. What was my journey to this topic? I was in New York and researching something, and then I saw an article on MSMDS. So they posed a question to the parents. The title name was, I believe, The Sexual Education Dilemma Beyond the Birds and the Bees. And they posed a question to the parents whether we should continue the sexual education or should we abstain it. The education which is provided in United States school system is not mandatory by the federal government, it's state and the school boards. So you initially started in the Eastern Coast, 13 or 14 states, and then it went all the way. So what they done after they studied and researched with the school education, sexual education, they found that there was disastrous result they came up with, and they put those on this article. And those were like a premature pregnancy, sexual transmitted diseases, and depression, lack of education, etc., etc. So it was a list of results of that education. So that brought to my attention that whether this was an education or it was a vulgar delivery of information. So then I realized it's probably a vulgar delivery of information. Like, for example, if you give a child a revolver and explain to him the functionality of that revolver and then tell him don't use it. So that's very insane, because the child is a very curious mind, and obviously he's going to exercise. So that's probably what happened when you provide the physical information to the children and then telling them not to exercise. So that's the reason they did their pragmatic test by doing this. So I think if the results were horrible, so that means the action was not valid either. So then question came to my mind, then what is the sexual education? So there should be some education so we can pass on to our new generation. So for that reason, I did some studies, some research, and I looked into a couple of human psychologists. And that's how one of my friends was in North Carolina. He found that book I was looking at, Sex and Culture by Dr. J.D. Unwin. And also I was into Lama Parwez at that time. And he had also a pamphlet on that topic. So I did those and I studied and looked at a lot of other things. And I believe I gave a lecture a long time ago in Canada on this topic. So before I get to my topic, I just wanted to explain a few things so we can understand and differentiate a couple of things from one to another. So I want to clarify the animal life versus human life, because that's very important. We have to differentiate clearly. So where do we stand, whether we are on the animalistic life or we are heading towards the human life? So during the evolutionary process, if you look at carefully, from the Big Bang, from 13 billion years ago, when the first elements, basic elements developed, and that becomes the physics. And then obviously from there on, we have atoms and molecules and then complex molecules. And that became the chemistry, and then they'll settle down on this earth. And then you develop the single cell, which developed biology and life from there on. And that life obviously continued in different kingdoms, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdoms, and it got into human life. And in human life, when it was evolving, brought the animal status within it. So we have now two aspects. One is the animalistic aspect of human life, and one is human life, and how much we can develop from that onward towards the human life, and how much we develop and actually go transcendent to even a godly life towards that direction. So that is the journey we are in. And how can we do that? We have to figure it out. So animal life is a circular life, cyclical life, and that what it means that all animals, including ourselves, if we are at that stage, that we preserve ourselves, self-preservation, and then we eat and drink and grow bigger and then marry and then procreate and have something like ourselves. So this is this circle is where most of the animals are, and including ourselves, most of us, and that is called animal life. As Quran also mentioned, وَيَتَمَتَّعُونَ وَيَأْكُلُونَ كَمَا تَأْكُلُ الْأَنْعَامُ. Those who just eat and drink and have a procreation and have another one like them, they are like animals. And another site, Quran says, "Ulaika kalinam," they are the one like animals, balhum adal, even worse than that. So that tells us that if we have to go towards human life, we have to come out of this cycle. So the second, and human life is obviously straight upward, Sirat al-Mustaqim, and it's unlimited. So animal life is also unchangeable. Human life is changeable. So we can change our life and according to our will. And we don't have, animal don't have a choice. A human has a choice. So the animal life is, as I said, is unchangeable, and human life is changeable according to our will at any time, at any place. Animal have no choice, and human has choice. Animal is also has nature. That's very, very crucial point, a bit differentiating between animal life and human life. And human does not have a nature. And that we can discuss some other time what nature means. Nature basically anything which cannot change on its own will. The sun cannot decide to come out of west on its own will. And lion cannot decide to eat grass on its own. So that means if they are bound to do certain things, that means they have nature. Human does not have, on the other hand, because human has a choice, and human can change at any time, any place, at whenever he wants, according to his will. So this is very, very crucial to understand, that that's where we become human, that I want to change. If I'm not changing, probably then I have a nature in me. Okay, nature who does not change, basically. Animal is procreative. And human, we have to understand, human is also procreative as well as creative. So as human become more creative, he is more developed. So this is the journey of human creation and human development. And all other kingdoms, animal, plant, and galaxies, they all have conscious, but human has self-conscious. Means he has a metacognition, means he thinks overthinking. So that is very, very also crucial that human has, animal don't have. Animal don't have moral values, human has moral values, and animals are programmed, and their directions are inert, they are in there, internally given to them. But for human, directions are given from outside, by another human, but that we call prophet. So that is the difference between human life and animal life. So human as animal life, as Quran says, وَيَتَمَتَّعُونَ وَيَأْكُلُونَ كَمَا تَأْكُلُ الْأَنْعَامُ. In the human side, Quran says when we were developing human, and during those stages, he explains in the Quran, and then he says at the last, Summa anshana khalqan akhara. So that means we, given the final stage, it means we have completed and transformed him into another final form. So that, and how that happened, he says, Summa sabbahu nafakha fihi min ruhihi. So then we fixed him, and then we instill our divine energy in him, and that in divine energy, what it did to human, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمَ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ. So by giving that divine energy, God has put these higher faculties of listening, seeing, and thinking in human. These faculties, we are accountable to those faculties, because these are very, very important to have for human, and especially the thinking part. And then what Quran says, Kalilam ma tashkur. The majority in the world do not utilize these faculties to the max. So that is very, very important. Even Quran says in a lot of places that وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Majority of the people in the world do not have the knowledge. And then he says, وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Majority of the people in this world do not use their brain. And وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And majority of the people in this world do not use their conscious. So, and obviously we believe majority is right, but Quran is telling clearly that majority is most of the time are wrong. So that's why, because they have no knowledge, they don't use their brain, and don't use their consciousness. So to follow the majority is kind of insane. So now that's so then what's the purpose of our life? Why we are here? What we have to do? So we have to achieve the human stages, human life, from the animal life towards the highest life human can achieve. And that's what I said, in like every human has their own Sidratul Muntaha. At what level you can actualize your own potentials. So as I said in my one of the words, पूछता है तू मकसदे हयात क्या है, पूछता है तू मकसदे हयात क्या है, जान ले तू तेरी सिदरतुल मुंतहा क्या है. So Sidratul Muntaha, every human has that, and every human has the capacity to achieve his potentials by actualizing their hidden, inert, sleeping abilities. So I'm going to briefly touch those stages of human that we can achieve in this life. So when we're born, we actually at birth, we are pre-animal. Why I'm saying pre-animal, because human, even you born in a PhD family, you still have to learn ABC and 1, 2, 3. But in the animal kingdom, when a duckling was born, then it can swim and eat and whatever at the same time. So is this, they are already programmed. We are not programmed. So we have to learn by exercising, by repetition. We learn and develop. After that, we develop the animal life, which is the second achievement of human to get to the animal life, which is, I mentioned, is cyclical, it's circular, where you have a self-preservation, food, sex, and procreation. And that is, majority of the time, human gets stuck in that life. So we have to come out of that to get to the Adam's life. Adam's life, Quran explains that one who conquered the forces of nature and get benefit out of it, and surrender them in front of them. They prostrate in front of human. Like when we know the knowledge of the sun or the moon or the other planets or even human body, we understand the power of gods and we get benefit out of it. And then we utilize, if we utilize only for our own benefit or for own nation, that is considered as Adam's level. But if we deliver that benefit towards the benefit of whole humanity, that is the human level. So the human is one who conquered the natural forces and then get benefit out of it and then deliver it towards the humanity. So that is important to understand. And then comes to the Muslim level. Muslim means one who, by their own intellect and understanding, accept certain principles of Quran, natural, universal values, and then accept them and get convinced by them, and then try to follow it. Hasn't done, they don't, I mean, it's the level where they just accepted, okay, this is the constitution, I believe in it. And then the next step is when he start acting on it according to those principles in their daily life. If they're practically using those principles, then he becomes mu'min. And then the last stage of that is abd. Abd is a human highest stage, that because Quran mentioned for all the prophets, they were abd. Abd means those people, hanifan, they are concentrating on those principles to live accordingly and develop a society on this earth according to those principles, and then live accordingly. Because in that society, human potentials actualizes expeditiously. So that is the stage which is very, very important to. So each stage has to be achieved. We cannot jump from animal stage to moment, because you cannot go from 5th grade to 10th grade. You cannot understand the calculus in 5th grade. So each stage has to be understood properly, and then resolve it, and then move to the next stage. If you don't resolve it properly, if I don't understand things in 5th grade, even if I go to 6th grade, I will have a difficulty understanding in 6th grade. So this is how if I don't understand at this level where I am, I can't go to the next level. So this is very important to understand too. Then how to achieve these, the stages and human development. So that again is you have to have a highest conviction on the principles of Quran, and then strictly implementation on your life on a daily basis. And second, you have to do productive work accordingly. And in that society, you become a productive human, productive citizens of that society, which is moment. And then you also develop other humans uh, without your personal vested interest. So once you try to do that, by developing other, you develop yourself. Why I'm saying there is a law of receiving. Law of receiving is a paradoxical law. And what it does, it says whatever you want in life, you have to give. So means if you want respect, you have to give respect to earn respect. If you need money, you have to give money to earn money. So it's a paradoxical. So that's why when we develop others, we develop also ourselves. And then to establish a society according to the Quranic principles is also very crucial. And that also, in that struggle to develop that, human also grows very fast and develop his self. And that is the journey where you really develop yourself. Why humans should do that? That's another question. We can do something else. The reason why the freedom is, there is something in us which don't let us be slave. So there is we always want freedom. So to develop these things, to develop yourself, to make myself free. So that's the first step. And the second step, to free the collective humanity also. That is also when you 1 to 2 to 3, as the more human becomes free, the better for the humanity. And that is the very, very crucial thing to understand, the freedom. And also people they get a little bit confused with the independence and freedom. Independence is not a freedom. You can be independent of other society, but it doesn't mean you are free. We got independence in 1947, but that doesn't mean we are free. We got independence in July 4th here, but that doesn't mean we are free. We are still slave to certain people. So that is very important to understand. For that reason, when we stay under the man-made laws, we stay as a slave, because they are made by some other human on human, and no human has the authority to make laws on other human, because human has a vested interest and they have emotions. So those emotions comes in their laws, and that's where other human gets strangled. So if we adopt and believe in Quranic injunctions and principles, universal values, and then apply on ourselves, that will make you free. You get freedom, you get authority, and you get a choice. So that is the difference between living under man-made laws and under God-made laws. And then why do we establish the society for according to the Quranic injunctions? Because that expedite human self-development very fast. So for the reason if you want to develop other humans in a fast fashion, you have to develop that society, and our struggle should be in that direction all the time. Now, the topic of today is the sexual energy. And I just want to clarify one more thing before I get to that. Freud has also talked about, Dr. Sigmund Freud has talked about human development stages according to psychosexual stages of a child. And that became very common and prevailed in the society and caused a lot of issues too. So that's why it has a significant effect in this world, actually, on this sexual perversion and other aspect of sexual anarchy what we have today. So he played a big part. So I just wanted to explain how he came up with these ideas, and everybody should know a little bit about it. So I will go briefly and touch it. So he said that during the child development, he goes through different stages, and each stage has to be resolved appropriately. Otherwise, he gets fixated. And once he gets fixated, that has an effect on his later life through different psychological problems. So first stage, he mentioned that oral stage. So now he puts every stage on the basis of sexuality. So now, when he says oral stage, so that means the child gets sexual satisfaction, gratification by oral, or sucking, eating, and drinking. So that is the first stage. And if that stage does not resolve properly, like a mother does not provide milk, and the child's crying most of the time, and these kind of things in child's early life, Freud said that leads a problem. He becomes fixed in that stage, and later on in life he becomes like a very manipulative, addictive personality. So he puts everything into sexuality, and then have us consequences of psychological problems. So this is the first stage. Second stage, he says anal stage, which is, of course, control of bowel and bladder, which starts from that was from 0 to 1 years, and this was 1 to 3 years. And that's where, if these stages are not resolved properly, means they're not trained properly in the bowel and bladder control, then they have problem and they get fixed. Later in life, they become anal retentive or anal expulsive personalities, which could be anal retentive means they're very stingy, they're very subservient and suppressed, and then the other end, expulsives, are like they are very don't care about others. They're very apathetic and stuff like that. So he puts everybody into certain categories. Then he brings the phallic stage, which is 3 to 7. And that is when the child has an awareness of a little bit about their genitalia. And then they start acquainting themselves to their parents, like the female attracts towards the male and male attracts towards the, he come up with the Oedipal complex. And then in that stage, if they don't find the right identities and get fixated, he says they have identity crisis later on, and also they have they're aggressive towards females and competitive towards males and all those kind of psychological problems. Then the latent state, which is he said it doesn't develop any fixation in that stage because the libido is very low, and the child develops so many skills in that time between the 7 to 13 years. And that's the stage where he goes to school and he's very angelical, follows the directions and follows the laws and develops a lot of skills. So having a low libido, that could be an aspect we will discuss later on. And then from there on, genital stage, where from the adulthood to the death. So that stage also has significant effect. So if that's in that stage, actually there is a battle between id, which is instinct, and superego. Let me explain this. This is also very interesting to understand it, because a lot of people still have a confusion about id, ego, superego, and we talk about it, but it's gets confusing sometimes. So id is basically an instinct. Any instinct we generate, I want to steal something. So it's a satanic instinct. It's like a doing wrong thing. And then my superego, which is like an angel, telling me, oh, don't do that, that's not good, you have to be, this is a wrong act. So trying to suppress my instinct. So, and then between the id and the superego, the ego comes into picture. Ego is more intellectual, and also it develops at birth. Superego develops at age 7, and the ego develops at adulthood. So when you are adult, when you are thinking and when you use your intellect, so the ego balances between id and superego, and come up with, okay, final version. This is what we have to do. So that's the three things what Freud explains. Now, in the genital stage, if somebody develops a strong ego, means intellectually very smart to differentiate things between wrong and right. So he has a balanced personality. But if somebody has a weak ego but strong superego, they are kind of a suppressed and not subservient type of people. And if they have a weak ego and weak ego and weak superego, they are very careless, but they're very apathetic persons. So he put these categories into human life. But as I mentioned, these things has been proven wrong, and a lot of psychologists, even in contemporary psychologists, even Carl Jung had a discussion about that with Dr. Freud. So anyway, and what the consequences we have seen today, we understand that that was not right. We took us in a totally different direction. So now I'm going to explain a little bit of, before I get to the real part of Dr. Unwin's research. I think we have to understand where these instincts and emotions comes out from our body, and that is our limbic system. Limbic system is between our higher brain and the spinal cord. There's a part which is called hindbrain, midbrain, and this is also primitive brain that we call, or reptilian brain. And there's limbic system. There's a combination of a couple of parts, which is mainly amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus. So they basically generate different types of instincts and emotions: fear, anger, sex, pleasure, dominance, and thirst, offspring care, caring for your offspring. That's also in animal is very, very embedded. And also memory, the storage of the memory, retrieval of the memory, and also link between your conscious and subconscious and autonomic nervous system. All those are in this hindbrain, in the limbic system. So that is the part where we get our emotions and instincts coming to us, and we use our higher brain to utilize those instincts and channelize in a proper fashion. So here, when you do, there's a part of it is by external stimulus. We get also external stimulus, especially the media. We get a lot of stimulus, and then we got those emotions, and then get into that problem. So here I want to mention one thing. If we believe that seeing is believing, means if we believe outside world, and that is our belief, that means seeing is believing, means you are a victim, means the outer world is controlling you, driving you. But if you believe that believing is seeing, what you believe you should see, not what you see you believe, so then you become a creator. That is very, very powerful for human. If I'm seeing and that I'm believing, I'm a victim. But if I believe and then create that, see that, That is condition. So that is human. So this is very interesting. So yeah, so here also I want to discuss a very important point to differentiate between instincts. So we all have basic instincts like eating, drinking. All those instincts are embedded in us. And then if we do not satisfy those instincts, we tend to develop emergent situation. And a time comes, if we do not take care of that emergent situation and we do not eat or drink, and then we can die. So in that condition, in emergent condition, even Quran says he permit haram to halal. He said you can eat those things which are forbidden in this situation, so you can prevent your death. So that is called, I mentioned last time, is Istarari halat, these emergent condition. So in the sexual emotion, there is no emergent condition develop. You don't die if you do not exercise that. So if you do not satisfy that instinct, you are okay. You probably develop nervous tension and mental tension, and actually that is sometimes beneficial for you to develop that energy into concentrated form. So that there is no emergent condition in that situation, and they're still not given any choice to do that act before marriage. So Quran says clearly, if that condition is there, if you cannot get married, so you have to control on yourself. So there's no other option that you can fulfill that instinct. So that also very important to discuss. But today, if you look at the society, I mean, look at the generation, young generation today, they are like, as per Iqbal says in Persian, Sayad khud siyadra goyad bagir, means the prey is asking a hunter to come and get me. You know, we are telling them to come and hit me, you know. So this is where we are today. So that we have to understand that this instinct is not that gonna kill you if you don't satisfy it. So now, starting with some proposed questions, that what is this sexual energy, and what effect human self and human culture get by preserving it or by draining it? What Quran says and science says about it, and does a nation's fate depend on human sexual behavior in a given society? So let's see this, what the science says and what the Quran says about these questions. As I mentioned earlier, the Quranic verse, I'm going to repeat it again, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, those who control and protect their chastity and sexual energies, they are successful. And also he says, "Wala yaznun," and the moment the people who believe and convinced by these principles of Quran, they usually do not go towards fornications. But if they do, وَمَن يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ, but if they do that, yalka sama, then they become weak. Their energies goes down and they cannot compete with others. They stay behind. Asama means that camel who stay behind from the other camels because weakness, and same with the nation and the individual. The one who stays behind, staying behind and being gets stuck is what Quran says is Jahannam. So moving forward is you are heading and you are going towards heavenly life or Jannah. Now I'm going to talk about Dr. J.D. Joseph, the Unwin. He was the ethnologist, anthropologist, and sociologist, and he was a professor. He was a professor of Oxford and Cambridge University in early 19, and then he came up with an idea. He obviously studied a lot of people before he did his research, including Dr. Rivers and Freud and his contemporaries. And then he literally gave his life towards that research. And he studied almost 86 cultures, including 80 remote tribal cultures and 6 great civilization, including Romans, Persian, and Muslims, and British, and all that. So after taking all the data, he lived in them. I believe he married one of those places. So what I'm saying is he died actually very young, around 40. So, but he did his thorough research, collect a lot of data, and there's a lot of criteria he made collecting data. And the main conclusion I will discuss, and the rest we will not touch. So he basically, after reviewing all that, he put those societies, those cultures into 3 categories. Actually 4 categories, but he mainly talked about 3 categories. He first put those cultures into zoistic level. And that means the level of animalistic life, where that in any cultures who kept prenuptial and postnuptial relationship, there was a freedom in it. There's no restriction on them. And he saw all those cultures were living at animalistic life, zoistic life, and they have a very minimal energies. They didn't have enough social energies to come up with innovations and creation, and they were not building too many things, just probably road and some stuff. Okay. So then he says the monastic level of cultures, where they irregularly put restrictions on prenuptial and postnuptial relations, and those societies have some social energies where they could make some innovations and some creations, but not to the extent that they are very well ahead of others. And then he puts the third level, which he says deistic societies, cultures, where they strictly follow the pre and post-nuptial chastity, and very minimal opportunities provided to them in that societies. And also they also considered, he mentioned at one point, that the prenuptial relationship was a civil crime, a societal crime considered to be, and then were punished by the society. So those were very, very strictly observed. And he said those societies basically conserved and protected and had enough social energy for their higher creation, innovation, and development. And they build temples, they build the roads, they build a lot of things, and they have so much energy, and they flourish, and they did wonders. So, and also he puts a 4th category, which is interesting. That was, I believe he said rationalistic. Rationalistic society, he described in a way, it was a little bit difficult the way he put it, but what I got it's like, if you keep the deistic level in a given society for a longer period, so what happens, you're keeping those energies, restrictions on sexual relationship, and you preserve a lot of social energy for a little longer period of time. That's where their higher faculties, he saw that they become very, very at high level, and they became rationalist, and then they developed and innovated so many things in that society. And those are the one he thinks that are, including British and Romans and Muslims, like they were very religious in the beginning, and then they conserved that energy for a long period of time, and that converted them into rational people, and then they developed to a very, very high level. So that's where he puts that fourth category. So now, for the post-nuptial relationship, he looked at into those societies and put them in 4 categories of marriages. What kind of marriages he saw in those society? So he put in 4. First one was absolute monogamy, which means one wife and one husband till death. And there was one exception: if the wife commit adultery, and then they can break that contract, but otherwise they have to live together. And Unwin said this was the best, but he didn't see that lasting long in any given society. So it got into either perversion, because if you're either the female has to be slave or no have rights. So that means if you cannot keep that for longer period of time. So the second thing is a modified monogamy, means where you have a one wife and one husband, and you living together, and that's where he says is good, but you also have a choice. If you don't get along, you can divorce and separate. So that is also the one of the best he considered, but the best one is absolute, but that can happen. The third one, he says, the absolute polygamy, which is having a more than one wife, and wife has to stay with that husband. And the modified polygamy, which is more than one wife, and wife also has the right to leave. So these are the categories he built, and then he applied all his data to his kind of algorithms, and then he came up with a lot of conclusions, and which he mentioned in his book. He also mentioned in celibacy, that doesn't mean you absolutely restrict that sexual relation, because that leads to perversion. So that's not the case he mentioned. So now his research conclusions were very, very interesting. He said, first of all, the society, the culture, which he says he saw, they have a main things which needs to have is, one, you have to look at what kind of system they have developed in them. The second thing is how much limitation they have on sexual relation in that given society, and how much social energy they have preserved. So those two things are very crucial to bring it into conclusion. If they have that, if they have a better system and the more social energy, sexual energy, that society will flourish. And I think you probably missed one, but I add that even Immanuel Kant mentioned, and Parwez also mentioned in his literature, that also look in a society what kind of God they have adopted. That is also very crucial to look into. So then these are the things important. And other thing is what kind of regulation and restrictions on sexual relationship in the given society, in their past and in their present. That will determine the success or collapse of that society. So sexual relationship, he said, is not a two humans' private biological act. It's a societal act. That energy belongs to society. It's a social energy. So that's where he came up with that this is not a personal act. That's where society also give punishment if this act is performed in a wrong way. But when you develop sexual anarchy, that's totally different things. But then of course, that culture will collapse also. And he says, very important, he says if a society put no restriction on sexual relationship and prenuptially and postnuptially, that society will collapse in 3 generations. He divided each generation into 33 years, and he says around a century later, that society will collapse. So that's, you can apply that on any society. You can apply on American society today, because this is the flourishing society. So if they have, and you have also, he said, if a society is going down or collapsing or flourishing, you have to think what kind of rules and regulation and restriction they have applied on sexual relations, especially like 100 years ago. And that will tell you, okay, that's the reason they are heading in that direction. So because they're losing the more sexual anarchy in a society, the less social energy they keep, and the less innovation and creation in that society, and the society eventually collapses. He says also that when you develop the sexual anarchy and no restrictions, and having a knowledge in that society does not utilize it. It's not that that society doesn't have the knowledge. Even if you go to Rise and Falls of Roman Empire by Gibbon, and he mentioned that in that society, one of the criteria, he said, having a knowledge in that society, the society was not utilizing the knowledge. Number two, they were patching the problems, not looking at the root causes of the problem. And number three, they start making protocols. Protocols means you're not thinking, you're following some guidelines and just following on that, and now brain become dull eventually in that society. So that these are the things we have to watch. If you see that in any given society that's happening, then you understand that's the problem and what direction they're going to head from there on. So these are the main conclusion, he said. And he said the post-nuptial chastity does not bring productive actions if the prenuptial chastity is not maintained. And male chastity does not bring productive actions, productivity in a society if the female chastity is not maintained. So this is very, very interesting also to have, and if you look at a Quran, always when he talks about male, he talks about female. When he says hafizina lefarujahum, he also says hafizat. If he says muhsinin, he says muhsinat. So both these apply on male and female equally. So there is no exception. So they both have to be protected. They both have to protect and preserve their energies in that way. And also he says that in that society where he says the deistic society, and when he looked at it, and he says the prenuptial relationship should be considered a social crime, as we mentioned earlier. Also, he suggested, according to his data, that absolute monogamy or modified monogamy is the best marriage in those cultures where he saw flourishing, and then deistic culture was the highest culture he saw, and rationalistic. So yeah, so these are the Quran goes a little bit further. Actually, when I saw that, Quran says post-marriage even, he says muhsinina ghayra musafihin. Hassan is to protect like a city you protect by walls, concrete walls, that kind of ahsan with swat, and the safaha, which is do not drain the like a water. So protect your energies and don't let it drain unnecessarily if there's no need. So that's why we have to understand of our needs and wants. Want can be unlimited, never ends. The needs are very limited. Human have a very limited need. So we have to understand what is our need and what is our want. Like we understand what is animal life and what is human life. Same way we have to differentiate between our needs and our wants. So that's a very, very crucial thing. He also mentioned Freud at that point. In the conclusion, he said that Freud also mentioned, because he was working at a sublimation at that time, and he said, any society who protect and preserve their sexual energies and sublimate them into a higher form, higher faculties, and they become very rationalistic, and then they grow very high. So he mentioned that sublimation, and also obviously Quran 1500 years ago mentioned in the Quran. He says, al-qazimin al-ghaiz means your extra energies, your anger or your other emotions has a lot of, all emotions actually, you have to understand, all emotions carries energy. Because sexual emotion in human and animal kingdom is the most strongest emotion, and that's where it has a concentrated form of energy, which can be utilized into a lot of different other aspects rather than just procreation or drainage. So this is the Quran. When it says kazamin, kazamat means sublimation actually, and how the Arabs utilize that word. They don't have, the Arab didn't have enough water, so they used to have a lot of wells, and they connected those wells by subterranean channels. So each well, so if the rain happens someplace, so these wells gets filled, and then it also fills the others. So it balances all the wells, so all the wells has water. So sublimation is like if you have a higher and more energy from any emotions, from depression, from anger, from happiness, from sex, whatever, so that you can take an extra energy and put it into a productive angle. Let me explain a little bit more what is sublimation. This is crucial to understand. Freud mentioned in a lot of different ways, but the basic understanding of or definition of sublimation is a transition of a solid form into gaseous form. Means you take away the middle part. So means that from ice to gas, so no water. So you transforming a solid, a concentrated form into a gaseous form. So you're transforming a matter into a metaphysical, transforming a matter into energy. So now look at carefully. Once you transform from a solid, from matter to energy, think about the steam engines. They carry hundreds of bogies, and they have so much energy with just the steam, with metaphysical, with that energy. But the solid, so the sublimation is you take that energy, physical energy, and convert into metaphysical energy, which supplies to your higher faculties. So the sublimation is also, Freud mentioned in a psychological point of view that if you have unfavorable, unsocial guilt in you, you sublimate it, rationalize it, displace it into a more favorable, more acceptable, more cultural norms. So that is also sublimation, but in reality, sublimation is what we use in medical field and science. So from a transition from a solid form to gaseous form. So that is the process which we, sublimation actually is a mature human defense mechanism. And that is very crucial to understand, that we can do by our own choice. We can do any time we want. Even if you are sitting depressed, you still have a lot of energy. You still have a lot of energy. People don't understand. You can either drain it or you can utilize it. How you can do it? What you do is you have to harness that moment, that energy. Understand it, why you are this way, what's in there, how this happens. You have to ponder. You have to utilize your brain at that time and channelize that energy. Because pondering, what pondering does, pondering creates more myelin sheath on your nerves. And then you basically, when you have a more myelin sheath on your nerves, your conductivity of velocity goes very high. So that's where you channelize that energy into a different directions, and it goes very fast. So there are ways human can utilize these energies and preserve it and put it in a very productive angle, rather than in a depression or anger and breaking things, and you in a destructive manner utilizing those energy. You can do it in a lot of productive aspect from that end. So also Unwin mentioned in his book, Dr. Unwin said, if a society wants to stay green forever, live forever, he has to do few things. One is to give equal rights to the female of the society. And the second is have a provide minimum opportunities for sexual relations in prenuptially and postnuptially. And that we didn't see it, that kind of society for a long period of time. But if some society in future can do that, will be very, very flourishing and very forever green type of society will be. So that's what basically Dr. Unwin's conclusions. And he puts that energy into a very significant aspect of human life, human culture, human civilization. And we have to also understand that. That doesn't mean that we restrict and abstain. Abstinence is not good either. I mean, the celibacy, as he mentioned, if you restrict and suppress any human emotion, it goes into perversion. So that's not good either. We obviously, this relationship is very sacred and very important. And to preserve our life, even preserve our species, even if you look at the development, evolution of the whole life, the plant, animal, and human, this was the most vital force to maintain the life. So this is we have to also look at in that. Yes, we don't have to have excess of everything is bad. So too much of everything is bad. But there's a formula. Old people says 90-10 formula, means if you're doing 90% right, don't worry about 10%. Even Quran says we will have a scale and we will see which side of the scale is downward. Even if you're 50%, 51%, 52%, 53%, 16, 80%, okay, your scale is downward, heavier of good deeds. So you will go forward. So what I'm saying is, when we same way when we eat healthy, we try to eat healthy, but we also sometimes we have a pizza, we have a McDonald's. So we all do that. We are human. We are imperfect. We are not perfect. So how human develops? Human perfection comes from human imperfections. So if we don't have imperfection, how do you know about what is perfection? So we develop by our mistakes. So God has made us that way. So we have to understand, yes, we want to achieve the highest level, then we have to give up a lot. But if we want to stay here, then we all make mistakes. We all do things which are not right. My body once in a while can tolerate if I take excess fat. But if I start doing daily or more frequently, then my body is going to give up. So this is where we have to understand the limitation of our doing. So being a limited is not a crime. You can be limited, but our ultimate goal is not being limited. The more matter you are, the more limited you are. The more metaphysical you are, more unlimited you are. So we have to get rid of this limitation and convert into unlimited. God is unlimited. The more unlimited we become, why we want to be unlimited? We don't want to be limited. We want to grow every day as much as we can. Our Sidratul Muntaha, there is no ending of that. So that's the reason we have to understand in a proper way all these things. Yes, Quran says, "Wala takrabul fawahish." Do not go towards those things which incite you, which put you towards wrong things. Avoid those. If you see something wrong, just avoid it. If you continue to see it, then you will be inclined towards those kind of things. If you avoid it, you will incline towards these kind of things. So those fawahish, he said, ma zahara minha wa ma batina. It could be hidden inside, like Quran says, we know your inner feelings, your what you do wrong things with your eyes and with your mind, with your heart. So these are hidden and very obvious things we do. We both have to be protected and in the right direction. So now this energy. Now let me put it in a better way. This energy, usually we know it's neither can be created nor destroyed. It can transform from one form to another form. So any energy. So according to Newtonian, we were matter. According to Einstein, we are metaphysical. So now if we are metaphysical, that means E is equal to mc square. So every matter is basically at the end, if it goes to speed of light, at the end is energy. If you look at the basic units, you will still see that energy is constantly moving. So that movement is basically energy and life. So if according to Einstein, we all have energies. So now sexual energy is an expression of the same energy. It's another same way. My anger is another form of energy. My happiness is another form of energy, of the same energy I have. So how much I utilize in which direction, that's up to me. Okay, it's like you have an income of $1,000, right? And you make a budget of your month. You're going to take this much for this reason, this much for this food, this much for your clothes. That's what we all do if we are rational. So same way, we need to understand, where is my need for this energy? Where is my need for this energy? How can I protect this energy and put it in another way if I need more there? So this is how we have to do. So that's the only way we can live rationally. And anything we do nonsense-wise, without choice, is a sin. is considered to be a sin. Nonsense life is a sin. So basically, if you think that you're not going to face the consequences of your actions, that is kind of foolish. A fool means one who go against himself. So if you go against yourself, it brings a lot of suffering. Why do you want suffering? So basically, we should have not a nonsense life. We should have a sense life, choiceful life. But the purpose is, the main thing is, we have our own choice, we have our freedom. So that's the reason this energy we can utilize in a better directions. So Freud mentioned that energy, initially he said it's libido, then he says it's sexual energy, then he said it's a psychic energy, and then eventually all agreed, even at Dr. Unwin, that it's a social energy. So this social energy is very, very crucial and precious energy for humans. Why? Because it is a fuel. This is very, very important to understand. This energy is a fuel to human imagination. All creation comes from human imagination. If your imagination is strong, you can be a creator. If you're a daydreamer, or you're imagining, you can create. So this energy is a fuel for human imagination. This energy is fuel for human perception. All human knowledge comes from perception, all these five senses we have. So it's very crucial to have those perception to develop to the highest level. When you see things, you wish your vision should be 100 years far away. That kind of vision you should have. So perception is where humans develop their knowledge. And this energy is fuel to human perception. Human memory. Obviously, very, very crucial to have memory. If you don't have memory, you're nothing. You lose your own identity, basically. And human thought processes. You processes your thoughts. And this is very crucial to have that higher tendency where this energy develops that thought processes. Then human perception, thought processes, memory, human imagination, human thinking, human reasoning, intuition, all higher faculties of human are very, very crucial for human to develop. And this energy is fuel to those higher faculties of human. Besides that, this energy is also fuel to procreation. This is important to maintain the species. We need to procreate. So that energy is also utilized in that direction. Then, when I was doing research, I found this is very, very interesting and important to understand. And I'm going to elaborate this one today a little bit more. There is one human defense mechanism. It is immature defense mechanism, ego unconscious self-defense mechanism, which is called repression. And that you have to understand. And it's very interesting. When I read it, I had to read it multiple times in different places to understand the clarity of it. So what happens? Let me give you an example to make you understand this. Let's see, for example, this is a pencil on the table, and I go to somebody's house and there are a couple of pencils, and I want to steal one pencil. So the thought comes into my mind that I'm going to steal this pencil. So whenever a thought comes to human's mind, right away there is a battle starts. The battle between two tendencies within an individual. One is satanic tendency and one is human tendency. So satanic tendency telling me, take this pencil and put it in your pocket. Nobody's here, nobody's watching. The human tendency is telling me, don't do it. This is not a right act. Stealing is bad. You become a thief eventually. So now the battle is going on. In the first battle, you have to understand, the first time when you steal, this human defense mechanism, which is actually a conscious mechanism, which is mature mechanism, is called suppression. Suppression comes and try to suppress the guilty thought, the stealing thought that I'm not going to do it. But if your human tendency is weaker, this suppression doesn't work. Even though you're doing it consciously, this wins satanic tendency and you steal it. Now, once you steal it, the act has happened. You can't reverse it. So now what happens? Suppression failed, didn't work. And first time, remember, first time when you do wrong things, this suppression comes very, very strong and not let you do wrong thing. But second time, this suppression is weaker. It's not going to come to stop you that strongly. And you're going to do easily the second time. Third time, more easy. And then eventually you're going to steal a lot of things and not knowing even, it becomes your second nature. Habit. You know what is habit? When your body knows more than your brain. So that's what body does. So now what I'm telling, once you perform the act, that act goes into your subconscious. Now you hide it in the subconscious. To hide that guilty act, which keep providing guilt to your conscious from your subconscious unknowingly, and that bothers you. Why did I do it? Well, I really don't need it. I'm just going to put it in the drawer. I don't know why I did it. So that guilt, you don't want to carry that guilt constantly in your life. What you do is you try to repress it. And that is ego unconscious, not knowingly in your subconscious, you constantly repress that guilt thought that it doesn't bother your conscious. And that's where you keep it. So now when you repress that thought, you put a pressure on it so it doesn't come out and bother your conscious. You are utilizing that social energy, that sexual energy. That is very crucial to understand. So the guilty thoughts of humans, if you are a munafiq, if you are a dual, you develop so much guilt in you because you're saying something and you're doing something else. So that guilt is built up in and to put that energy constantly in your unconscious for a long period of time, constantly. That's waste of energy. That's going in a wrong direction for no reason. If you don't have those less guilty thoughts, less energy is being utilized, more guilty thoughts, more energy is being utilized. So if you are draining your most precious, most creative energy into just to prevent your guilty thoughts, that's where we don't develop. That's why I understood first time. Quran says munafiq's status in the Jahannam, in the hell, is the lowest status. So that means the munafiq will have too much guilt. And that's where he putting all that energy in the wrong directions and not developing his higher faculties and not developing himself. So these are the things we have to understand. We can, by choice, we can change it. Human is changeable. We have a choice. So this is where we have to realize how crucial these things are for our development. I'm not saying you don't have to develop to a highest level. Everybody has to decide what level they want to develop. There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If you are 50-60% doing good, 90-10 formula, I said 90% you're doing good, 10% don't worry about it. If you don't worry about on 10%, you will more focused on 90%. So doesn't matter. I mean, we all do. We eat wrong things, but our body can take care of up to certain level. If we go beyond that, in anything, in sex or in food or in water, we can take up to certain level. Then the body give up. It will develop diabetes or hypertension or heart attack or stroke. But we have to be at a according to the needs. So that's the main thing. For that reason, Quran says the nutshell, the deen in nutshell, in a few words, is in like 3 layers. So your emotions, human emotions, has to be under the strict supervision of human intellect by the higher brain. Has to be always under the strict supervision, so that you can channelize in a better direction. And then your intellect has to be strictly supervised by Quranic injunctions. So the Quran, if you leave human intellect alone, you will go astray. You never go in the right direction. Human intellect alone cannot see the right thing. It's like the eyes alone cannot see the right thing. It needs inner eyes too, right? The right directions, the right laws. So this is what my, I think, talk is about today's. I believe, I hope you, everybody, got what I'm trying to convey. So if you have any question, please let me know. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم